Okay, let's unpack this. It took 18 years.
18 years.
It spanned 2 different continents. It required a completely separate murder conviction in South America, and this high-stakes game of federal legal chess to finally get to the truth.
It's unbelievable when you lay it out like that.
For nearly 2 decades, the disappearance of Natalee Holloway wasn't just another cold case. It became this, national obsession.
Well, it was the definition of a nightmare scenario. You have an honors student, the pride of Mountain Brook, Alabama. She vanishes into thin air on a tropical island.
Right.
And for 18 years, the question wasn't just, where is she? It was, how does someone just disappear so completely from such a small place?
And that's the mystery we're really diving into today. But we aren't going to just rehash the tabloid headlines we all saw in the checkout lines back in 2005.
Yeah.
We're looking at the mechanics of the deception. We're going to try and reconstruct the timeline of lies, the calculated extortion, and the very specific legal maneuver that finally forced a confession in late 2023.
And that legal maneuver is everything. Because this case didn't end with some detective finding a smoking gun. It ended because the perpetrator, Joran van der Sloot, finally just ran out of moves to play.
So let's set the scene. May 30, 2005, Aruba. This is the unofficial senior trip for Mountain Brook High. Natalee is there with, 124 classmates?
Yeah, a huge group. And by all accounts, including the Aruban police commissioner at the time, Gerald Dompig, the whole vibe was just chaotic. He called it wild partying.
Teenagers being teenagers, I guess, but in a foreign country.
Exactly. Lots of drinking, room switching. And on that final night, the group is at a place called Carlos and Charlie's, a total tourist spot.
And amidst all that chaos, Natalee is seen leaving. She gets into a gray Honda.
And this is the moment. The clock starts right there.
Inside that car is Joran van der Sloot, a 17-year-old Dutch kid who lived on the island, and 2 brothers, Deepak and Satish Kalpo.
And that gray Honda driving away is the last verified, confirmed sighting of Natalee Holloway.
So when she misses her flight the next morning, the panic it's immediate.
Instantaneous. Her luggage is packed. Her passport is on the nightstand. Her parents, Dave Holloway and Beth Twitty, they don't wait for some 24-hour window. They are on a private jet to Aruba immediately.
And because they move so fast, they actually confronted Joran within hours. This is where the whole cat and mouse game really kicks off.
It really is. Because Joran doesn't just deny knowing her. He starts spinning this web of stories that just kept shifting.
What was the first one?
The first one was shape-shifting, really.
Yeah?
He claimed he and the Kalpo brothers took her to the California lighthouse area to, of all things, see sharks.
See sharks, okay.
Then when they pressed him, the story changed. Suddenly, he dropped her off at her hotel, the Holiday Inn. He paints this picture of her falling down as she got out of the car, refusing his help.
But the hotel camera showed nothing, right? No gray Honda, no Natalee falling down, nothing.
Zip. And this brings us to that first huge frustration point that I think drove everyone crazy back in 2005. The Aruban police arrest Joran and the brothers in June.
They have the last people to see her alive.
They do, but they can't keep them.
Why? I mean, why couldn't they hold them?
It comes down to the legal system. In the U.S., we're used to probable cause. In Aruba, under Dutch law, they use prevented detention. They can hold a suspect for a bit, but to keep extending it, the burden of proof just gets higher and higher.
So they needed hard evidence, like physical proof.
They needed a smoking gun, without a body, without a weapon, and with suspects who kept changing their stories but offered no physical proof of a crime. The judge had ordered their release.
It's infuriating to look back on. You have this kid who is so obviously lying, but the system itself protects him, so Joran walks free.
He does. And for the next 5 years, the case goes cold. The family is in agony, the media circus eventually moves on. But Joran, he gets comfortable.
He gets arrogant.
That's the word. And that arrogance leads us straight to 2010. This is the pivot point. Joran transforms from just a suspect into an active predator. He decides to profit from the pain he caused.
This is the extortion plot. He reaches out to John Q. Kelly, the lawyer for Natalee's mother.
Yeah, he basically says, I know where she is, I know where the remains are buried, and I'll tell you.
For $250,000.
Unbelievable cruelty. But because this transaction involved an American citizen, Joran made a critical error. He triggered U.S. federal jurisdiction. The FBI got involved and set up a sting.
They wired him money, right?
They did. They wired $15,000 to his bank account in the Netherlands and handed him $10,000 in cash in Aruba. They recorded everything.
And he takes the money and just Points to a house.
He points to a foundation, yeah. He spins this whole elaborate tale about how his father, who had since passed away, helped him bury Natalee there.
But it was a complete lie.
A total fabrication. Investigators checked the records. That house, it hadn't even been built when Natalee disappeared. The foundation didn't exist. He took the cash and sold them a lie.
But that lie is what finally gives them leverage on him. The U.S. indicts him for extortion and wire fraud. That indictment just sits there waiting. But before the U.S. can grab him, the story takes an even darker turn.
And you have to look at the date. This is just chilling context. It's May 30, 2010.
Exactly 5 years to the day.
Joran uses the extortion money from the Holloway family to travel to Peru for a poker tournament. And on that anniversary, he meets a 21-year-old business student named Stephanie Flores.
And unlike with Natalee, we know exactly what happened here. There's video of them going into his hotel room.
And only Joran leaves. The leading theory is that Stephanie saw something on his laptop, maybe a message about the Holloway case, a news alert. I mean, it was the 5-year anniversary. His name was back in the news.
Can you imagine that realization? Realizing you're in a room with that guy?
Whatever triggered it, Joran's reaction was just lethal violence. He beat Stephanie Flores and suffocated her. He left her body in the room and fled to Chile.
But he was caught pretty quickly this time.
Very quickly. He was arrested, sent back to Peru, and in 2012, he pleads guilty. He gets 28 years in a Peruvian prison.
And that changed everything. For years, there was maybe this tiny sliver of doubt. Was he just a kid who panicked? The Peru conviction shattered that.
It proved he had the capacity for extreme lethal violence. It proved that when he's cornered, he kills.
And ironically, him going to prison in Peru is what puts the Natalee Holloway case on ice for another decade. The U.S. couldn't touch him.
Or so he thought. Fast forward to 2023. And this is where the legal chess game comes back into play. The Aruban statute of limitations for murder is 12 years. That clock ran out in 2017.
Wait, so that means he could have confessed to the murder in Aruba and they couldn't have prosecuted him?
Correct. He could have walked into a police station in Aruba, screamed, "I did it," and walked out a free man on that charge. But he still had the U.S. extortion charge hanging over his head.
So Peru agrees to a temporary extradition. They send him to Alabama to face that indictment. But this was never really about the 25 grand.
Not at all. It was all about leverage. The U.S. prosecutors knew Joran was facing a situation where he could serve his U.S. time after his Peru sentence. He'd be an old man before he ever saw freedom.
So they offered him a deal.
A very specific deal. Concurrent sentencing. His U.S. sentence of 20 years would run at the same time as his Peru sentence. He wouldn't serve extra years.
But there's a catch.
A massive catch. He had to provide a full, complete, and truthful confession about what happened to Natalee Holloway. And he had to pass a polygraph test.
He had to trade his secrets for his future.
He did the math. He calculated that confessing was the only path to ever getting out of prison before he died.
So in October 2023, we finally got it, the proffer, the confession. And after 18 years of all this speculation, the truth was just shockingly brutal and simple.
It's the banality of the evil that really hits you. Joran admitted he didn't drop her off at the hotel. He drove her to a beach. They walked onto the sand. He wanted sex. She refused.
She said no.
She said no, and he persisted. This is a detail that I think really validates Natalee's character. She fought back. She needs him in the crotch to get away.
And that resistance is what triggered him.
He admits he stood up and kicked her in the face with extreme force. He knocked her unconscious instantly. In his confession, he says she was possibly even dead, but definitely unconscious.
But he didn't check on her. He didn't get help.
No. This is the part of the transcript that just stops you cold. He says he sees a cinder block partially buried in the sand nearby.
A cinder block.
A cinder block. And in a matter of seconds, he makes a calculated decision to finish it. He picks it up and uses it to, in his own words, smash her head in completely.
That's not an accident. That's an execution.
It was about ensuring her silence, making sure she was dead. Then he dragged her body into the ocean, waited out until it was deep enough, and just let it float away.
And he confirmed he acted completely alone.
Yes, that was a major point of the polygraph. The Calpo brothers had already left. His father wasn't involved. The murder and the disposal, it was all Joran van der Sloot. Alone.
It's chilling. You realize that for all those years, every TV interview he gave, smirking,
Yeah.
he knew exactly what that cinder block did.
He treated it all like a game he was winning.
You know, we have to touch on the media coverage. Because while we focus on Joran, we also have to acknowledge why this case stuck with us for 18 years when so many others just fade away.
This is the missing white woman syndrome concept. It's an uncomfortable but very real aspect of criminal justice.
And what that means is the media attention generates tips. It puts political pressure on the State Department. It forces the FBI to allocate a budget.
And resources solve cases.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time Natalee went missing, there was a case in Philadelphia, LaToya Figueroa. She was black, pregnant, missing under suspicious circumstances. Her case didn't get that international spotlight.
And that lack of coverage means fewer resources, which leads to cold cases. It's a feedback loop.
It is. Natalee's case is an outlier because the media pressure was so intense it just never let go. It kept the case alive for 2 decades.
It kept the pressure on Joran even when the legal system couldn't hold him. So, bringing it all back to today. Beth Holloway stood outside that courthouse in Birmingham. The fight is over. She said he is the killer.
She finally has the definitive story. She knows her daughter fought back. She knows she didn't suffer for days in captivity. And she knows, legally and factually, who did it.
But Joran is back in Peru now.
Yes. He was returned to finish his sentence for the murder of Stephanie Flores. The U.S. sentence is running concurrently. Yeah. Effectively, he's locked up until, probably the mid-2040s.
It feels like a hollow victory in a way. He isn't serving extra time for killing Natalee.
And that's the provocative question this whole case leaves you with, isn't it? Is the truth worth that plea deal?
The prosecutors traded years of potential prison time for the truth.
And for a mother who spent 18 years wondering if her daughter was suffering somewhere, I guess the truth is the one thing that actually matters in the end.
It was the only piece of the puzzle she didn't have. Now she does.
It's a heavy one, but it is finally closed. That's our deep dive on the Natalee Holloway case.
Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.